Thank you for joining me here today. Today I have a very special guest, Anna Charles, who is a coach to help you or anyone moderate their drinking. How are you doing today, Anna?
Very well, thanks, Reese. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's a beautiful day. I cannot complain. Where did your own journey start?
So, this was never the plan to be doing this. I was a corporate girl for many years. I was in high tech for 25 to 30 years. Very senior roles. I used to manage, very big teams, big budgets, all the rest of it. And I was just sort of going up through the ranks, promoted up, promoted up. And I just noticed that I was starting to drink a little bit too much white wine. And being a goal-driven person, I thought, we're going to knock this on the head, Anna. We're just going to tone it back. And I was really shocked that I wasn't able to do it. Because it's like, okay, I'm used to setting goals, achieving them, setting them, achieving them. And this was a little different. And it was actually really, really, really annoying. That was the most important thing here. And it sort of got to the point where one day, because I used to drink when I was, and I had a totally lovely life. I mean, I need to make that clear. I didn't have a physical addiction or anything, totally nice. And I was cooking one day, and out on the counter next to the onions was a full glass of white wine that I had poured without even knowing that I had poured it. And I even hunted around the apartment. Is my husband here? Did he? No, it wasn't. It was me. And I realized this was so habitual, this behavior had to stop. And so I just sort of figured it out because a lot of the advice on the internet was if you have any kind of problem, you're obviously an alcoholic, you need to go to AA, you need to stop right now, go to rehab. And I knew that wasn't for me, but I knew I couldn't continue as I was. So I just sort of paid attention to it, and I did. I changed my relationship with alcohol so that I don't desire it anymore. And I thought this is too good to keep to myself. I know there are many other Annas out there. And so I quit the corporate life, and this is what I do.
That's incredible, especially given that alcohol is so socialized. Oh, yeah, it's totally fine if you have one or two after work or anytime you go and be social with a friend. It's so habitual to how we exist today. And even myself, when I struggled with alcohol, it didn't start with 12 a day. It started with just every time I was out. And then it was out of control until I started having nightmares of my own death, and I knew. I'm like, nope, this is my sign that I need to stop drinking because this is the slippery slope part.
Yeah, you're so right. It is this, and that's one of the things that people struggle with a lot, not only in terms of everybody else seems to be able to do this, why can't I? So we get into I'm not normal. And it's like, oh no, it is actually the reverse here. Let's think about this. This is an addictive substance. It should be kind of weird if we can handle it. But we have that other way. And we are so full of judgment on this, right?
Right? Well, and not even just the judgment from others, but the judgment on ourselves.
I
Where,
know.
like, as soon as you want to stop, even before that point, you will be beating yourself up for the fact that you do it.
And it's a daily thing, right? This is what we get in the house. So we wake up in the morning, that's it. Or I might not be feeling fresh, but in any case, it's a new day. I'm not going to do it tonight, or I'm just going to have the one. And then 3 o'clock comes around, and then 4 o'clock. And then whatever time your trigger time, it gets closer. Go on. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll just have the one. And then it might become three, even if it's just two. If that's, I say to people, it doesn't matter actually the volume on this. And then you've done it again. So tomorrow's going to be different. And this drive for perfectionism as well is the kind of the other thing that anchors us away from being successful. We go from being wanting to be normal, but we don't feel normal, to being perfect. Of course, we can't be perfect. If you've been drinking every day for 20 years, you're unlikely to be able to just stop. But we think, yeah, we should be able to do that, right? And keep so many people stuck.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I love like a properly implemented harm reduction model where, one occasionally is okay. As long as you're not doing it for the reason of, damn, I need a drink.
Exactly. A lot of people say they want to be able to have a drink rather than need it. And actually, it's one of the reasons why I know a lot of people do, but I don't talk about alcohol as being poison or this stuff, because otherwise it makes us feel worse. How am I? I'm this really intelligent person and I'm putting poison down my throat. I just don't think it helps, because that's all part of the judgment. So we say we figure out what we want to be able to drink. And the thing is, a lot of people, they tell me they want to be able to moderate. That's why people come to me, because I'm not part of the big sober rah-rah club. If somebody wants to stop entirely, I can help them get there. But but that just seems so impossible to so many. But it's like they might really want. It's just, you might as well say, "Do you want to fly to the moon?" It's like it's just not going to happen, right? So we sort of say, I said, "What? Give me some interim. Where do you want to be? And then give me some interim steps along the way." And the most beautiful thing is, as we go through them, we just pass these waypoints, and we don't, it's not like we're crossing some finish line with one person to the next. We become that person. And it is glorious. And one of the things I do halfway through working with people is actually read back to them what they told me when we first met. And they're like, I don't recognize that person. And it's
Exactly, because in rewiring those habits, you get to lean into your authentic self instead of the person that is secretly numbing out, even if you don't realize it.
correct. And you use the right word there, habits. I mean, for so many people, and at least the people I work with, this is truly a habit, like cleaning your teeth, like me and pouring the wine. It just so happens that because of the dopamine in the alcohol, there's a huge reward. And so it is a habit we very quickly learn, but it is a habit. It is honestly a habit. And then and there are ways just to reduce the habit so that, and then once it stops being the normalized behavior, the wonderful thing about the brain and habits is that the new habit, so the not drinking, becomes the new habit. And it's just phenomenal.
Exactly. It was the same thing when I started to trade dinner out with friends for a long walk or a light
Yeah.
jog. It was, no, I love you, but I need time with myself in my own head. And an equal dopamine hit, just completely different social situation.
It's true, and that's a beautiful thing you say there, because that's the natural dopamine. And the thing about alcohol people don't often realize is that while we accept that it sort of numbs the bad stuff, it doesn't make it go away, but sort of numbs it, it actually numbs the really good stuff as well. This is why you can be so watching a sunset. I had a client say I was watching a sunset, and she used to think, and this would be so much nicer with a glass of wine. It's like, when we remove the wine, it's the natural dopamine from just seeing the sunset. And you also talk about time with ourselves. In this fast life, we don't have enough of that, which is another reason why if we drink to relax, it's because, hey, it's like, it's going to be immediate, right? We're going to drink it and we're going to feel great. But there are other ways of doing it.
Exactly. And honestly, I've learned to romanticize my time alone. Every time I'm spending time by myself, that's a date. But it's just a date to know where I'm at better because no one else is influencing anything. And after working through my own crap, it's no
Yeah.
longer torture to be alone in my own mind.
I might use that actually, Reese. I can copyright it to you, but the idea of it being a date with yourself, because I think because boredom is one of the big reasons, or it used to be for me as well, why so many drink. And it's like, I think because we're not used to being alone with our thoughts. It's like, what, there's something, because we're on the go all the time. So I like the idea of a date, because that would be something we would choose to do rather than, oh, here it is again, I'm on my own, and what am I going to do, kind of
right?
thing.
And exactly, like, yes, I could spend more time with my partner. I could spend more time with all of my friends. But sometimes you just need some time alone in your own head so that you're less of a cow when you're with your partners than your friends.
Yeah, for sure. And if you think about it, if we as we go the I always think that the double whammy or whatever you want to call it, the killer thing with alcohol is that we tend to drink at the end of the day, obviously, because that's when we think it's permissible to do it. It's just a societal construct. But at the end of the day, it's the end of the day, end of all the emails, all the being polite to people, all the going to work, all the putting the kids to bed, and all of that stuff, when we have not often been making time for ourselves. So it kind of builds up. We sort of have this compounding stress. And then that hits us, boom, at the time when we would be drinking. So it's sort of like the becomes the perfect answer to the problem. And and if we take time out, even little bursts, if I say to people, I'll have a cup of tea sometimes during the day, and I won't read email, I won't do anything, I'll just sit and watch the clouds. I know it sounds really
Mhm.
weird, but it makes me feel it's like you breathe into yourself and you're ready then for the next onslaught.
And I do something very similar, but generally outside of between meetings, as long as the weather permits. I
Yeah.
drink my morning tea on the porch every morning. And because I'm surrounded by yards with old growth trees and beautiful gardens that I can see from my porch,
Mhm.
it's almost like sitting in a forest, just drinking my tea like the time I lived off grid.
See? And the dopamine we can get from that, and just, I mean, as you talk about it, the way you describe it, I can see it.
Hmm.
And that's the other wonderful thing, right, about the brain that we experience in our minds. So as you're talking about that, I'm actually seeing, and I can feel myself there. And and so if we can do that with that, we can do that by just sort of removing this other thing that makes us think and believe that life is better than it is when it really isn't. It is the experience is the one that we create for ourselves. That's so cool you say that.
Right? And once you get sober and deal with all of the healing, even if it's harm reduction or just reduced alcohol,
Hmm.
you realize how beautiful life really is because you learn how to manage your mind and reduce the overflow of information you consume. You you build those better boundaries so that you're not in a constantly overextended state, so that you don't need the 1 to 13 drinks every day.
Exactly. And it is really, and it's, when we think about managing our mind, because people say, what does that mean? It's just really being aware of our thinking. Because people say to me, but Anna, I just like wine. I really love the wine. Like they're reporting the news, like this is a fact. And I say, okay, that's just something that you're thinking. And then because we think that, then we sort of take action and then reinforce it. But there's many other thoughts that you're going to be thinking on a daily basis that you pay no attention to. And we just want to up the attention on the thoughts like I want to go and sit on my porch and look at the view rather than I need a glass of wine. I mean, it's so much that is managing our mind. It's so simple and we can all do it. We don't need anybody else to do it. No one's permission.
It, and so many years after reducing my intake, the only one I actually enjoy for flavor is bourbon. Everything else tastes like nail polish remover.
It's so weird. Like French Chablis, that was my thing. I mean, oh my gosh, we go to these large supermarkets, and my children they run and say, "Here's mum's wine." If we went to France, we'd buy it all in because that was where I could get because I used to like the good stuff, right? The Premier Cru didn't seem to matter, and I was so sure that I just couldn't imagine life without a glass of Chablis. And I tell you what, it's actually totally fine. That is better. It really is, but I never have believed it before.
Right. Well, then I guess fortunate in a misleading way that I have chronic pain disorders. I don't
Mm.
need alcohol to wake up feeling completely hungover.
Oh, 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 oh.
And well, those are now managed very well so that I have a few of those really bad days a year.
Mm.
But when you realize that you can feel shitty without alcohol, that's also an easier way to not consume at all.
It's
Like,
so true.
at this stage in my life, I never crave it. And even if I go out with friends, I will just have like a pop or a Coca Cola. And they go, "How do you go out and not drink when all of us are drunk?" Well, I'm actually entertained by the show that you drunk people are putting on right now. I'm very entertained. It's small-minded like enjoyment, but it's fine.
But it's so strange, isn't it? I mean, just think, unwind that question that you get asked, because I get asked, how can you have fun when everybody else around you is drinking? I mean, this is the sort of like, the reverse way. Then some of my clients get told is if they do announce, and very few of them do announce this because of what they'll hear that they're going to stop back. People say to them things like, "What about me? You're going to spoil my fun. You're going to be less fun if you're not drinking. I'm going to have less fun if you're not drinking." And what I say to people is just think about those statements for a second. It's all about that person worried about their enjoyment, their experience based on what you're doing. And just think we don't do the same thing, for instance, with carrots. I like to take something very different for dinner, and you're eating carrots, Reese, and I'm not, right? I once said, you said, "Well, where's your carrots, Anna?" I'm not going to enjoy myself. And yet we do it with wine. And this is really no different. It's just something that we consume. And,
Well,
it's hard for people to deal with that. But when you think about it in those terms, oh yeah, yeah, it doesn't really make any sense.
I mean, if you're really sweet about it, I can give you one of my carrots.
Yeah, no, you see?
But the peer pressure is ridiculous. And not just for alcohol. I recently moved to a different part of the country. You know
Mhm.
how many people went, "What about me? What about our
Yeah.
friendship?" Well, if our friendship is real, you're going to appreciate that I'm doing something that is good for me, and it won't even phase our friendship because we will stay in touch. Now, if we weren't really friends and you were just enjoying me as a space holder in your life, our friendship will die, and that's okay too.
Exactly. And this is what happens again when people, because they're worried about losing the friends if they stop drinking. And I actually had a couple of friends and figure all we used to do, my husband and I would drive a couple of hours to go and visit them. And all we would do is sit in the bar. I mean, because that's what literally, I'm not doing this anymore. I mean, it's actually, this was even when I was drinking. It's just a lovely day. Can we not go out? No, no. And so those aren't really then the friends that you'd want to maintain if you remove, like say, if you remove the distance or add the distance in, then maybe it isn't a friendship worth maintaining or that was there. Similar
It
with the alcohol.
exactly. I'm not a as much as I do like to go out and be around people, try new food and new restaurants. I'm more of a dinner party friends kind of person. I would rather have a group of friends meet at one of our
Mm.
houses, share a meal together, laughs, maybe some games. But The alcohol didn't matter, and we weren't out in public spending upwards of $100.
This is the other thing. When I say to people, how much are you spending? They say, I haven't actually really thought about it. And then we start to add it up, and it's like, holy moly. I mean, and so many, and at least in the UK, if you don't drink, end up, I mean, this is ironic, right? Would end up probably ordering a bottle of wine to, in air quotes, take home if I didn't drink it all, because a glass was so expensive. And then they would say, do you want to have the large? So do you want the large? Because when I was growing up, there was one size of glass, and it was this small little thing that you might have seen that in the old photos. And
Hmm.
now I think we've got about now the large glass in the UK is a third of a bottle of wine. A third of a bottle of wine. Just think about that. It's 250 ml. So you have one of those, and then you'll have a second, and you are really rolling at that point, and that is so expensive, each of those glasses. It's cheaper therefore to buy the bottle, so you end up drinking the third.
It,
And
it, and it's insane because as you say it, the system actually encourages our alcoholism. Well, it's
yeah,
cheaper
a
to buy
lot.
the bottle. Well, I mean, it's even cheaper if you buy the bottle at the store.
Well, there's that as well. Yeah. And that's what a lot of, there's, you've got that, the pre, I mean, I used to, I'd have the drink before I went out. I'm going to put my makeup on, I'm going to have a drink before I go. And that's sort of all part of the run. I mean, it's all dressed up in this. I'm going to have fun. This is what we do. And we have fun. That whole equation in our head, alcohol plus anything equals fun. And it's, and it's not really until you really step back and look at it that you see this isn't something I want to be a part of. And again, I'm not saying that somebody's consumption is right or wrong. It's up to them. I just want people to see that it is not an essential ingredient, because again, the experience we create is in our heads. And we know this because we can have a really bad time and drink lots of at the party and have a really miserable time and be drinking. And it is not always fun. So
It exactly. It is like everything, a skewed narrative. I am often considered a dork because now when I go out with friends, I will have like an energy drink or a coffee, and
yeah.
oh, you dressed up fancy to go for coffee with a friend in the evening? Yeah, why not? It's just about creating an experience. It doesn't matter what the experience actually is.
So do people call you a dork to your face? Does that
Yes,
happen?
but
Wow.
and to be fair, I mean, my personality kind of hits. Fairly nerdy, fairly dorky. I also very unfiltered. I will say anything with a straight face.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's so do you find, and I find that the whole there's this whole there's an activity of going out for a drink. So let's go out for a drink. And I have people say, so what are you going to do if we go out for a drink? Uh, well, I might go along and I might talk to you and I might drink something, but I think we'll be talking, and I think I'll be looking at the where I am and so on, and you just, because the act of consuming alcohol is something in and of itself. We went to this it was actually a drag show, so it was huge fun. I mean, there was a lot of drinking, a lot of shots, a lot of this, a lot of that. And the people I was with, excuse me, they were drinking a lot of wine, and they were having rounds. And every round they buy me a water, and it was bottles of water. But I had 6 bottles of. I said, I really don't need, because I don't need that much liquid. I'll just drink the one. And then I took all these waters home, because you just consume less, because the experience is not about what's in the glass. It is about the show and the people and the lights and the whatever. And you become that much more aware. Whereas before, yeah, I could have had 5, 6 glasses of wine for sure.
Oh yeah. Hey,
No
back
problem.
when we had a tolerance. Oh my.
Yeah.
Nowadays, no. Like one, and I'm like, no, that's enough. I still have to walk and take transit. Let's do that safely.
Yeah, I just and that's what I teach people. I just don't want it. I mean, I really, truly, I don't say I'm sober. I really don't drink. I might have a sip. If somebody says, Andy, you've got to taste this. And there was this concoction someone had, I don't know what, some cocktail. And actually it was quite tasty. It's quite nice. And so I won't say, oh, alcohol won't pass my lips. But I truly don't desire it. And because I don't desire it, and because I know what happens if you do let it and get out of control, I don't want that consequence. And I also know that in order to moderate, 'cause that's what I teach people to do, you need to be on top of it. You can do it. I know people who do it very successfully, but there is work involved.
Hmm.
Is you can't just wing it and say, I'm just going to go and have a couple of glasses today. You have to be very intentional and very clear and very neutral. And there's all these things. I mean, it sounds a lot, it isn't, it's very simple. And I just can't be faffed with that, frankly. I just don't want to do that. I'd rather
Right.
just go and have some sparkling water in a wine glass.
Exactly. Sparkling water, like a cran and soda, so that it looks fancy and everyone thinks that you're drinking, but you're not.
It's the fancy thing, the fancy glass. I love that. We went out to dinner. Actually, can be quite hysterical at times. So I'm over in Switzerland at the moment. I went out to dinner last week with a couple of friends, and they were sharing a bottle of wine, and I was on my San Pellegrino, which for me is very fancy, in my wine glass. And the first waiter had come, and we kind of established what we were doing. And but he didn't get the glass thing, so he brought me a tumbler, one of those kids' tumblers,
Hmm.
which I despise. And no, 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 no. I said, I don't want it in there. So I took the water and I poured it, and I grabbed one of the wine glasses and poured it. Oh, and then his colleague came along, gave me another wine glass for the wine, and they just couldn't get that I wanted the water in the wine glass. And it was a bit amusing.
Right? Well, then, the ones that I love are these servers and bartenders that when you tell them not drinking tonight, not only do they honor it, but they don't let anyone buy you a drink.
That is cool.
Like, those are my
That's cool.
favorites of, no, I know that she's sober and she said that she's not having any tonight. Let her be.
That's good. We had actually the reverse. My husband he drinks not very much, but he does drink. And we went out this one night and he wanted alcohol-free beer. He just didn't want to drink. It was fine. So he ordered the one alcohol-free beer. And then we asked a repeat order, but it was with a new waiter, a new server. He didn't believe that my husband wanted alcohol-free. True, legit. He brought him an alcoholic beer, and actually the other server came over, saw what was going on, and said, "No, I mean he's on the AF stuff." But this guy, he thought it was a bit of a joke. He didn't believe that my husband wanted the alcohol-free stuff. I mean, I'm not sure why, but there we go. So, and again, it wasn't a problem for us because he wasn't necessarily. But if somebody, I can see why when these things happen, it can make people very nervous about going out if they are sober.
Exactly. I know so many people that when they reduced their consumption, they were so afraid to go out because none of their friends respected their new boundaries.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, you being drunk is entertaining to me. I don't also need to join the party. I bring the party.
Exactly. I mean, I am me. I mean, and it is one of the things that one learns when you reduce your consumption is that you're not lazily relying on the wine for the fun, right? So I went to this party and this is before I'd really done the work, but I was driving that night. So I was legit not drinking for that reason. I was quite nervous about it because I thought, oh, it's not going to be any fun. And I had the most amazing conversation. I sat by this fellow. It was a big dinner party. You'd have loved it. It was a huge dinner party. And this man, he was a lot older than me. And so I'm already thinking, oh, I'm not going to have anything in common because of course it's easier to talk to the person next to you. And he did landscaping for golf courses. And I'm like, okay, this is a bit niche. Do you know what? We had the most amazing evening. He told me all about that. And then we found we had lots of other stuff in common. And I would never have had that conversation had I been glugging the wine.
It
Never.
exactly. And now it's almost more fun to go out once a month sober because I end up, even if I go by myself, talking to a stranger at the
Yes,
bar and getting their life story and generally accidentally opening up their perspectives.
that's great because they're like, yeah, I'm just gonna say it all. And but of course you're in listening mode because you're very present at that point, right?
Right? And honestly, sometimes it's borderline like free therapy, but I don't care. I'm there and they're telling me life story, whether happily or sadly. And I just cognitively give feedback and, give them enough to be like, no, this is not one-sided. I'm like, no, here's me on a platter.
There's something very special, I think, especially in this modern quick world of listening, of really paying attention to somebody and really listening. You can be a total stranger, it can be your husband, it can be a friend. Actually, and when you've just been hearing somebody versus listening, and they know as well. And you don't get that. You don't have that level. I didn't have that level of cognizance when you're, like, oh yeah, because your brain's thinking, is it going to be time to order another bottle? Where is the waiter? My wine's getting warm. Should I put an ice cube in it? You that's the background noise you have when you're meant to be holding a conversation like this. And of course, it's just not possible really to do that well.
Exactly. And when anyone feels heard and seen, their eyes twinkle the same way as when they're in love.
Yeah, because we don't have it a lot. We really don't have you been to those parties and places, conferences all the time? You're talking to somebody and they're talking to you, they're literally looking over your shoulder to see if someone a bit more interesting is coming along. It's, I'm here, please talk to me. And I think again, when we have alcohol in our system, that's effectively what we're doing. We might be not doing that so overtly, but that is for sure going on.
Exactly. What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, that's such a great question. See, I think, okay, I know the answer because part of this snuck up on me. It's really snuck up on me, this. And I think a lot of it, as I look back, it was down to confidence. Because again, I told you I had this big role. I'd have to go to and I'm quite shy. And I'd have to go to these huge conferences and small talk with people. I was great on a stage, presenting fine, with people I know, fine, but with customers and reseller partners. And it was excruciating actually, because they go, what am I. So I'd have a couple of glasses to loosen up a little bit. And I think I would look back and say, Anna, it really doesn't. You can be you. It doesn't matter if you don't feel super confident. You are never probably going to be the most extrovert person in the room, and that's okay. And probably a lot of other people are feeling this anxious, socially anxious too. So you really don't need that other thing to make you feel better. And maybe the more you practice going out and doing this without anything else, you actually will get better at it. It's a skill you could learn. So I would target my confidence, I think. Yeah. It's a great question, though. Great
I,
question.
I love your answer. Where can our listeners find you and more about your work?
Probably the best place is my website, 90dayslater.co. I also have a podcast of the same name, 90 Days Later. And that is a great way for people to listen and they can hear me talk. And I cover all the stuff I cover with my clients to get to know me because I completely appreciate when someone first comes to me, they're kind of they're opening up. They have probably not opened up to anybody. So that's the best way. And what I will typically do is we'll have, if they're interested in working with me, we'll have a call, a free call, completely free, completely no strings attached. And I'll just see if I can help them. And they get to tell me where they are and where they want to be. And I will listen without judgment. And if you say you want to be able to drink, twice a week and at the weekends, fine. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, right? And then we'll make a plan to get you achieving that.
And if you are looking to learn more about my work or working with me, just head over to traumatobliss.ca or Trauma to Bliss anywhere on social media, and you will find all the links that you need. Thanks for listening today, everybody.